You know what I want to start singing?
What?
And now we're back.
No!
Welcome back to the Evan and Katelyn podcast. This is my podcasting voice.
I hope this isn't your podcasting voice.
Moving on. The very...
Okay.
Sorry. I can't do that for too long. All right. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about our old jobs because it's a question that we get asked a lot. And I think that it'd just be good to... I thought it'd just be fun to kind of have a podcast about that we can refer people back to going forward and stuff. And it was something fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also, speaking of questions that we get a lot, we're also going to be doing our first Q&A segment with questions from our Patreon supporters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want to start with talking about your job?
Yeah. So I graduated college with a degree in engineering, and like the details aren't that interesting. I think that the more interesting thing that we can talk about is kind of what we got from each job. Are we like glad that we did that work there? And like kind of looking back, would we do things differently, from our perspective right now?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, just generally, it's kind of a crazy career path because, okay, so I graduated with engineering and you graduated.
I was a marketing major.
But you always knew that you were going to be doing art, or that was your goal from like
That was my
the
goal.
beginning, right?
Well, I knew I wanted to do art, but I also wanted to
have a job that paid money.
Yeah, have a job that paid money. So I figured I can figure out the art stuff on my own because I had always just figured it out on my own. And the thing I would study would be the stuff that might be harder to figure out on my own, which was like
business
things, which I don't know, it's very nebulous. But yeah, so that's why I was a marketing major, but I went into graphic design.
Interestingly, you almost went to Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah College of Art Design. That's where I wanted to go. If I'd gone there.
We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have this life, this relationship, all this crazy stuff.
I got in too.
I'm so glad you didn't go there.
I know, but I got in, but I was like, at the last minute, I was like, if I go to an art school and I change my mind about wanting to major in art, there's only so much you can pivot if you're at an art school. So instead I found a liberal art school that had a good art program, but also had a bunch of other good stuff. Yeah. And luckily you were there too. But it was like kind of last minute.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Now, looking back, are you glad that you got a degree in business as opposed to art? I mean, nothing's obviously wrong about getting an art degree. Some people just know. And that helps build up a portfolio and stuff. Like, I think that's one of the main advantages of going to like an art college. You get more experience with art and you build up a portfolio, right?
Honestly, I think both would have been kind of equally meaningless.
Yeah.
Not that sounds like I'm anti-education. I think education is good, but I feel like no matter what you go into, I think unless you are studying something that is more
like a doctor,
or even
lawyer,
or like an engineer.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of like very hard skills that have to be learned. Whereas I think with things like marketing, for example, it's softer skills. It's more like people skills and presentation skills and working with a team skills.
Yeah.
Like nobody gives a crap about what the 4 P's of marketing are. Nobody asked me that when I started my job.
What are the 4 P's of marketing?
Product, price, promotion, place. That doesn't make sense.
You're going to get a 75% on this test.
3 P's of marketing.
You're going to get a 75%, Katelyn. It's like your worst grade you've ever gotten ever.
It is. It's true.
And I think for me, one of the best things about the college that I went to is every single semester for the 8 semesters that I went there was always a design class, like hands-on skills that I think really prepared me for like the real world better than almost anything else. Like those 8 design classes, I think, were the most valuable thing. Plus, senior year, they paired us with an actual company and we solved a legit problem for them where like there was, requirements put into place and real world.
That is pretty cool.
Like, consequences if you did things wrong and stuff. I feel like they should have that every single semester for think every major.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Even if like your role when you're like a freshman, even if your role is less crucial to that real life project, you still kind of get experience and get to work with it. And then as you go like by the time you're senior, you are playing a more active role in it. It would still help give you experience.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things I did actually was
your first job, because that was really cool.
No, I was
Partially 'cause of the
actually going
environment.
back to like college,
Oh,
but
yeah.
one of the cool things was that we had some like flexibility, especially like upperclassmen.
Yeah.
And so I could do, I forget what it was called, like a self-guided class.
Oh, yeah.
Where I could basically just choose an instructor and be like, hey, I want to do this for my class. Can I do this? And they would grade me. But it was basically like, that's how I started my LLC.
Yeah. It's because you took business, and that's kind of what helped you do freelancing.
The
and
class
turned
I
into
pitched
this.
was starting my own business.
Yeah.
For like doing freelance art.
That's so cool.
And so it was like going through
That's
all the
so
legal
cool.
stuff and starting it. Yeah, but that was like my class.
And you did it.
I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you started your LLC like
In college.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think that another interesting thing about both of our career paths is we've both worked for big companies and smaller companies. And I think that perspective is really interesting. Plus, we've both done freelancing.
Yeah,
so
we
we've
have.
both kind of done the whole gambit of the different types of work environments that you can have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
I think one really interesting thing that I kind of got from working for other companies is I think that if you never work in those bigger types of companies where there's budgets and team meetings and proper protocol you kind of need to follow when pitching ideas or doing presentations or what have you, I don't think either of us really. You might be organized, but I wouldn't be as organized as I am now, as methodical. Like, when I reach out to companies, I know kind of what they want because I've been in their shoes a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, and I've been around people who are making those types of decisions. So I think that, if I were to do it over again, I wouldn't just go straight into, like if I was giving my younger self advice, I wouldn't just go straight into YouTube, I don't think. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of hard to say, but
yeah.
But it's hard to say whether or not I would do it differently if I like went back in time with all my current knowledge. But I do think that there's a lot of valuable stuff.
I think one of the big things that I picked up from my work experiences is kind of confidence in myself, my abilities in terms of talking with suppliers and customers and like supply chain managers and stuff like that, like just kind of that back end of the business thing.
That's true, because sometimes we'll talk to people who are like reaching out for advice or things like that, and they're like, how do you talk to companies? Like, that's so scary. How do you reach out to sponsors? And for us, it was never a scary thing, because it's like you just write an email the same way you'd write an email if when we were working our normal jobs and you needed to ask somebody for something.
Yeah.
It's kind of just the same thing. But I think like that is something that comes kind of with practice, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So quick question for you. I have a question. So you've done freelancing.
Have I told people what I did?
Oh, probably not.
Because I said I was a marketing major.
Yeah.
But I actually all my jobs were in graphic design. So yeah, graphic design.
But I think it's really interesting that you worked for 2 small startup companies.
Yeah.
You did freelancing just for yourself as your own company.
Yeah.
In 2 separate time frames. And you worked for a really big company. What was the advantages and disadvantages of each circumstance? And compare freelance all by yourself versus freelance. I mean, we're kind of freelancers in a way.
Freelancing, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
So,
tough.
I feel like with the small companies, because I worked at 2, one was awesome. It was super fun. Kind of to the point of like, it was probably too fun because the company eventually went under. So like we were maybe playing too much and not working enough. But it was really fun. It was a really positive experience. The second small company was kind of miserable, honestly.
But I think both of those is because of the people there.
It was because of the people, but it was also kind of like the second one, it kind of showed me like, if you're going to hire people on, you need to be ready for that, because I was hired on and they were not ready to have an employee. And that's something I've actually thought about for our business too, because, I was hired on because they were really behind on all their projects, and I worked for a month. and I got caught up on everything that they expected to take a year. And then I was like, okay, great. Now what? And
but that's because you're just awesome.
Well, it's also because they like severely misestimated how long that would take. But I think that was kind of like a sign of like small companies are great, but you gotta
make sure it's sustainable.
Make sure it's sustainable. Yeah. And then, the working for a big company was like very cool, especially in the beginning. It was very like, oh, I'm going to my corporate job. I'm with corporate, and the people were super, super cool. I do think the main downside of that for me was when I started to look forward and I was like, okay, what would be my future here? And the only way to progress really, and this isn't unique to this company. It's just something that I happened to be looking at when I was at this company. As a graphic designer, you can only progress so far. Like you can only go up like one more level, and then after that,
so like team lead or something.
Yeah, and then after that, you're a manager.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I really want to manage people? Like, I like graphic design stuff, but it's also I've been doing it for a few years, and the stuff I'm doing is getting kind of old. But I don't necessarily want to be a manager. So like, what do I do?
Yeah, and like looking forward through your whole career, like the reason why you wanted to do what you were doing is so you could create things and be creative.
Yeah.
Not so you could manage people.
Well, and that's not to say that there's not creativity in a managerial job. It's just a different type of creativity, and it's not one that I wanted. And so, that's one of the things that really got me thinking about it. But then, like, in terms of freelance, should I go into that now?
Yeah.
In terms of freelance, it was really interesting because I did freelance graphic design. Like Evan said, like it in between jobs in two different occasions. But the longest was I did it for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was probably at the point where I was doing it, more than part-time hours, but it definitely wasn't at fully full-time hours.
Yeah, I mean it's hard, especially kind of like as a freelance
we were also
artist.
Like planning our wedding and stuff. So I was working on. We were planning the wedding. We just bought a house.
Yeah, you weren't getting super aggressive about pulling in new clients.
No, I wasn't getting super aggressive, and I kind of didn't have too much drive to get like that aggressive.
Yeah.
It was like we were not stressed about money. I was having fun planning the wedding and helping fix up the house and all that stuff. And I liked the flexibility of being a freelance graphic designer, but it also did get old in its own ways.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have, again, looking forward, it was like, oh, okay, this is cool, but what is my path moving forward? How do I keep this exciting? And I liked it, but I wasn't like crazy passionate about it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think for me,
very different than this.
Yeah, very different than this. I think for me, it's comparing the big company versus the two small companies. It's very interesting because your two small companies were very different, and my two small companies were very different too. Mm-hmm. I think that the first smaller company that I started at, they kind of like your second small company, they weren't utilizing me to my full advantage. Like there was a long lead for like the items that we were sending out to get made. There's a lot of waiting time, and I think that those days just went by so slowly.
So slow.
it was painfully slow, honestly.
Yeah.
And then my second small company, it was the opposite of that. I was working all the time. I was stressed all the time. I got to work and the day was done. It was like 8. And like I'd come home, I'd eat real quick, and then I'd basically go to bed and repeat.
What do you think is worse? Which situation? The ones where the day drags on, but it's pretty easy, or the one where it's a lot of work and it's so much time, but it goes fast?
Kind of depends on what else is going on in your life, almost. I think that, if you if you were doing meaningful work at your job, but you maybe didn't have enough to do, or like you weren't 100% fully occupied, but you still felt like your time was being well used, and you had a lot of fun things going on in your life outside of work that you could look forward to, I think I might prefer that long term as opposed to being stressed and overworked all the time. Even though those years went by really fast, those days went really by fast, they kind of disappeared.
Yeah, they did kind of disappear.
I think that when I was at the other job and I had a little bit more time, I still was doing good stuff. I accomplished good things. I felt good about the designs I was doing, but the days did go by a little bit slower. I felt like that time in my life was more meaningful because I had time to live my own life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I would agree with that, even though like I think generally the best is like to have enough work to keep you busy for the amount of hours that you're supposed to be working. You know, when you have like a normal job and there's certain set hours you're supposed to be working. But yeah, the other, like your other job where you were just working so much all the time, that was pretty extreme.
That was pretty extreme. Now, looking back on it, I mean, I do this weird thing where I think about life as a video game and I think about like leveling up and gaining skills and all this stuff. I think that when I was at the first small company and I wasn't being utilized, I felt like I was leveling up really slowly.
Yeah.
It's like I wasn't developing as many skills as fast. Like I did take a lot of things upon myself. Like I learned how to do 3D animations. I learned how to do polygonal 3D modeling as opposed to just, parametric I don't know, parametric, like geometry-based, math-based modeling.
It's funny because like when I was at my job where they were underutilizing me, I taught myself like HTML and CSS and like how to code basic websites.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I think that at the company where I was working all the time, I developed a lot more as a professional. Mm-hmm. I wore a lot of hats. I was exposed to like a whole bunch of situations. And I felt like I did level up as an engineer, as a kind of worker. I don't know.
So maybe it'd be like if, let's say you're like single living in a city and like your friends were work friends.
Yeah.
I think maybe the latter situation might be better.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're spending a lot of time at work, but all your friends are also spending a lot of time at work. And like, you don't feel like there's other, that sounds kind of sad, but like, you don't feel like there's other stuff that you're missing out on because you're at work.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the situation where the day goes kind of slow would probably be better if like you had a family or things like that where the day might go by slow but then you still overall had more time outside of work.
Yeah
I don't know.
I don't know. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, but what do you think working at those other jobs helps bring to YouTube, like our YouTube career and stuff? Because I could think of a few more things besides just like
being able to send emails.
Yeah.
I think, this is not an exact answer to that question, but I do think working a typical job made me appreciate the like positives of our job now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like understand the cost of our job now, because the positives are it's awesome. We love it. We feel super fulfilled doing it. We really like the work we do every day. The cost is the time. It takes a lot more time. It's a lot more work than any other jobs we worked before. And I think having that perspective, like, if you had never worked an office job or, and we didn't even get into like these are all like our post-college jobs. We didn't even get into like our retail jobs and things like that.
My lifeguarding years.
Yes. My year working at Hot Topic. And previous things too. But I feel like those other experiences help you. Like when things are hard at this job, there's been lots of times where I'm like, this is stressful, but I'd still rather be doing this because I have that comparison point. And I think that helps.
I think that maybe if we had have just jumped into this, we might not have valued it as much.
Yeah, I think it might be easier to get burnt out because like it's easy to say the grass is greener on the other side when you've never been on that grass.
Yeah.
I
think another thing that our jobs helped with, from a very utilitarian point of view, one thing that they did is working our two jobs let us save up enough money that we felt comfortable jumping into this.
That's true.
That's a huge part of it.
Yeah, and like specifically for our type of channel that we're doing, we require a workshop, and those jobs let us buy a house.
Yeah.
That is like very utilitarian, but it is true. It'd be a lot harder to do what we do if we were still in the apartment.
Yeah, and also, for the very first year of Evan and Katelyn, we made very little money.
Yeah.
Very little.
Very little money on the channel, but we didn't lose money in our bank accounts because we were still working.
Yeah, because we were still working.
Yeah.
I think that another thing that I think really helps us now is, I mean, this is specifically for us. Everyone runs their YouTube channel differently, and some people don't need schedules, and some people don't need like goals and budgets and deliverables. But I think that like this sounds so nerdy, but like sometimes like after we have like a meeting between the two of us, I'm like, okay, what are the action items? What are you going to do? What am I going to do?
Action
What's the next
items.
like plan of action? Well, we make the lists, we make the like deliverables and everything. And when we are on the phone with companies, we know like say like, okay, so what are you going to do and what are we going to do? And like, what's the next steps? Like what's the, like, let's set the date, let's set the meetings, let's set all of that. And I think another thing is, I think I've probably talked about Airtable before. That's where we keep track of all of our projects. But for the next usually 6 months or so, or between 2 and 6 months, we have all of our projects planned. We have what dates they're going to be on. We have who we're going to be working with. We have all of that scheduled and laid out and organized. And I think that has let us do a lot of things. It's let us make more money. It's let us be more be less stressed, be less stressed about all these unknowns. And I think that we have brought a lot of those businessy skills over on to our content creation business, because it is a business.
Also, I feel like legit when we're talking to people and I'm like, okay, we're talking to sponsorship. I'm like, okay, so what's the call to action we should hit? And I'm like, yeah, I know what a call to action is. I used to work in the marketing department. It's like dumb stuff, but yeah, it sometimes we do feel like we are like, I don't know. I do feel like we've been able to bring a lot of those skills over.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if we've talked about this too much. I mean, we've talked to so many people and like done a few talks about YouTube and YouTube, the shifting of our careers over to YouTube. Have we talked about how we, in particular, just like the two of us, how we managed our two careers as we switched from our engineering and graphic design jobs over to YouTube?
Oh, like how we transitioned?
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast.
Would that be interesting? I think maybe.
Oh, what? I just don't know if we talked about it or not. We can touch on it briefly, just in case.
If you haven't heard this, good. If you have, I'm sorry.
18 episodes in and we can't remember what we've talked about.
This is pretty bad.
Yeah.
This is pretty bad.
We'll do it quick. We'll do it quick. So this is how we transitioned from our full-time jobs to doing YouTube.
Yeah. So for me in particular, I quit my job as an engineer, and then I offered my services as a freelancer, like consultant, doing basically the same thing.
Yeah, it was like that happened at one time. It wasn't like you quit and then you later offered your services.
No, yeah,
it was
I quit and I said,
hey, I would like to switch from being a full-time employee to a consulting employee.
No, I didn't say that. I said, I am.
Oh, well, yeah, but...
Yeah, but basically...
I am.
I'm doing this, and I hope you guys get on board, basically.
Yeah.
And it worked out, and I brought on a few more clients, but my main client for most of my consulting days was my previous company.
Yeah. And then since you were consulting, as we kept ramping up YouTube, you were able to gradually decrease your hours consulting, like at your own will, basically.
Yeah. And it kind of worked out too, because when you're hiring someone as a consultant, you don't want them to work any more than they need to. Mm-hmm. Because
you're paying them hourly.
It's a very evident cost of more work, more cost. You know, and I think that the main thing that I wanted to do is reduce my hours. Mm-hmm. So I was fine working at that rate, but I also it was kind of a good situation that they wanted to use me as little as they could.
Yeah. It was like if you worked
getting
less,
my experience,
if you worked less or you were more efficient, you were benefiting them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also benefiting you.
And benefiting me. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
And and I didn't leave them hanging. I felt good that I left on good terms, and
by the time you had left fully, like
I had transitioned everything over, and it felt good. It felt right.
Mine was very different. My transition. Mine was maybe a little shakier.
Yeah.
I would say. So I did some digging because Evan had already switched to consulting. So we were on my insurance. And so I'd done some digging and saw that I could go down to 20 hours and still qualify for insurance. I wouldn't get all the benefits, but I'd still get insurance. Mm. And so even though it wasn't typical for graphic designers at my company to do this, I just asked and I was like, hey, can I cut from 40 hours to 30 hours? I'll take a cut and pay, whatever we need to do, but can I do this? And that essentially meant me taking Fridays off basically.
And you told them that you were very serious about it.
I told them I was very serious about it. I told them, you know, that it was very important to me, and that I also thought that, you know, I could get everything done I needed to get done.
And what's so funny, I don't know, this is kind of a side tangent, but the funniest thing is you were so efficient after that point that no one even noticed that you were part-time.
Yeah.
Except that you were gone one day out of the week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the thing. A lot of people didn't know that I had cut from 40 to 30. Like, eventually people started wondering, like, does Katelyn just, like, work from home Fridays? But, like, I was getting the same amount of stuff done.
Yeah.
It's because it's like, you know, there's always like extra space when you're working a 9 to 5 and your schedule. Like,
and you were just incentivized and rewarded for getting it done faster in a way. You know?
Yeah.
It was kind of a good deal both ways, always, because they were getting the same amount of work and they were paying you less.
The only bad deal is that people started asking questions, and that made management like kind of uncomfortable with the situation because they didn't want to make it look like they were playing favorites, even though this was technically nothing outside of company policy.
Yeah,
it just had never been done on our team.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, what if I went like to part-time? Like, we just made it really evident. There was no like, is she full-time but she gets Fridays off? What's that? I was like, I'll just do 20 hours a week. And so we did that for a while.
And you didn't get benefits then. And that's when I was...
I did not get benefits.
Oh, yeah. This is, you know, I simplified my story. I did go back full-time for a bit while
You
Katelyn...
went back full-time for like a month or two. It was very complicated.
It was a very tumultuous time.
Because we needed insurance. And then after 2 months of me working 20 hours a week, my company was like, hey, we either need you to come back full-time or we need you to quit so we have enough budget to hire a full-time person.
Yeah.
And I quit. Yeah. So that happened a little preemptively. But by the time I had fully quit, like, we knew the path we were on. We'd been doing it on the side long enough. And
we saw where it was going with the income and the money and all of that jazz. And at that point, I still had like a more stable income source through consulting.
The consulting was, even when I quit, you were still consulting pretty regularly.
Yeah. And
we just decided we had to figure out insurance.
I think that in general, I also did like consulting.
Yeah.
A decent amount,
Think
too.
you'd ever like go back to that in the future?
No. I mean, you know...
Was it kind of like freelancing was for me, where it's like, I like the freedom of this. This is pretty enjoyable.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't have the drive to put in more hours than I ever would at a 9 to 5.
I think that maybe... And I don't ever see us getting tired of making Evan and Katelyn videos, especially because, you know, we have our main videos, we have the podcast, we have gaming, and in our main channel, we can do a variety of things. So if we ever get tired of woodworking, we can do a Bob Ross painting tutorial, or we can do welding, or we can do so many things. And I think that flexibility is like a huge, huge advantage of how we've set our channel up. Because I just don't see us ever really getting tired of, like, looking into the future. I'm just excited about all of it, which is a really lucky place to be at.
Well, we've set it up around stuff we like doing, so that helps.
That really helps, but I think that in general, like, if I was doing consulting around YouTube or content creation or something like that, I think that I'd actually enjoy that more, you know? Like,
me too.
Like maybe helping a channel get up and running that we, you know, believe strongly in, or what have you, you know, like something like that. I think I would be more interested in.
That actually does something.
Don't have the time right now.
No.
But I think that, like, you know, something like that, it might be interesting.
Yeah.
At some point in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, looking at our path, would you recommend it as a path if someone wanted to do something similar to what we're doing? I guess we kind of already talked about that.
I think the main thing I'd recommend after going through everything we've gone through is explore your options. Be open to trying new things. Take risks and really try to figure out what you really want to do. And I know that sounds kind of cliche and everything, but it's not like follow your passion. I'm not sure. But it's like, try things out. See if you get excited about doing it. See if you're good at it. Because I think that another thing, I mean, this sounds kind of weird, but I think everyone likes doing stuff they're good at.
Yeah.
And they get a lot of joy from that. Like if you're very skilled at something, you can find joy in a lot of things. So I think that figure out what you're good at, see if you really like it. But I think the biggest thing is if you're in a position, and I think that this is a position of like being lucky and stuff, but if you're in the position to like take chances and try new things, I'd say just go for it.
Yeah. Whether that new thing is YouTube, you want to start a YouTube channel, or if that new thing is like you want to start your own business selling products or your own business doing consulting. Like,
or if
I say go for it, but I also say if you're a cautious person, because I'm a cautious person, go for it, but with a plan to do it in baby steps like we did.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, just because you didn't storm into your boss's office and say, I quit, and then start your business the next day, that doesn't mean that there's anything like, I don't know. Wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Like you can do it in baby steps. It doesn't have to be like a big dramatic change all at once.
Yeah. Yeah. So going through all of the things that like working for those old companies did for us and everything, I'm just curious, what do you think, like if we had have started Evan and Katelyn somehow right out of college, I mean, there's a lot of logistical challenges why it wouldn't work. Like,
I worry about what would be on
money
our channel.
And stuff, but yeah, I wonder what we would have done. I think that it'd be like
I was watching a lot of Epic Mealtime at the time, so
I think that it would be kind of like more chaotic. It wouldn't have as much of a plan and thought behind it.
I think I would probably just make videos that I thought were fun or funny,
which might have gone well.
Which might have gone really well. Yeah, but I don't know how good they would have been, and I don't know if there might be stuff online that I might regret later.
Oh, yeah, I think that would have been a strong possibility.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that after asking each other so many questions, I think we should give our patrons a chance.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We need to have a theme song here.
Is that a new Q&A theme song? Is it going to get its own theme song?
I think so. We just sat here in silence for a little bit. I'm
so
sure
it has to happen now.
One of us will figure out something nice and post.
Okay, great.
All right, so our patron Jesse Allen asks, at what point do you think you would bring on staff, if ever?
Well, we have started experimenting with bringing on some freelance help, mostly in the form of editors for the gaming channel. So I'm going to assume this is like full-time staff.
Yeah,
like we employ them.
That's like a big step, because bringing on freelancers isn't super intimidating. It is a cost, and it's
a cost, but it's not a commitment.
Yeah, it's not a commitment. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want someone someone relying on you to continually produce enough income to pay them that salary. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. I don't know if I
don't have a strong drive to.
Yeah, I don't have a strong drive to now, because it does add a lot of pressure. I mean, we're already, we already put enough pressure on ourselves. And I feel like it would be a big stress, even though it would be a help as well. I feel like it would be a stress. I would prefer to, if we're going to hire out help, do it on a consulting basis.
Well, I think another lesson that we kind of learned from our own journey, making content and making products and kind of going back to our old business, our old job experience, I think that what we've crafted for ourselves was intentionally a career path where we wouldn't need to bring more people on, where we could grow as a company, continue doing the same thing, but increase our revenue and per amount of hour put in.
Yeah.
That was a very intentional decision on our part.
I think another thing is we live in Texas. It's super cheap to live in Texas. We only need to make so much money to be comfortable. And if we get to a point where our options are, okay, we cut back on work a little bit and make less money, or we hire someone so that we can continue to make more money, we would probably just cut back on work a little bit.
I think we would.
If we were at a point where we were comfortable and it wouldn't be a stress.
Well, what's interesting is we already have. With our buffer weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
We've taken one buffer week, and we have more scheduled in the future, which I'm super excited about. It's a huge stress relief.
That's true. Yeah, that's an example. We could have said you know what? We're not able to get done what we want to do
Nope.
every month. So let's hire someone. That way we can do more stuff. But instead we said, let's take a buffer week every now and then so that we won't be making money that week, but we'll be like getting caught up on things and relieving our stresses.
Yeah. And another interesting thing is, I mean, I'm not going to mention any names or anything, but I've seen other companies bring on help, and I haven't seen like, other YouTubers, content creators similar to us bring on help. And I haven't seen or heard of their hours reducing.
Yeah, it never seems like hours. I think it doesn't really reduce your hours.
No.
It maybe like can increase like the quality of certain parts of your output, or maybe the amount of output.
But I've never heard of it like, oh, I have free time now. No,
yeah, exactly.
I've never heard anyone who's brought people on say that. Ever,
yeah,
really.
And I think like ultimately, like if we were gonna ask for anything, like we value free time over more money.
Yes.
Which sounds funny because like we have no free time right now. But I think like
it's a long-term goal.
Yeah, but I think like you said, bringing on someone doesn't necessarily give you more free time.
So we talk about some in episode 15 where we talk about outsourcing and diversifying in our week off in air quotes. But one of the lessons I've learned over time, I didn't really talk about it too much then, but we've been doing it for about 2 or 3 weeks now, a little bit of outsourcing, and it takes a decent amount of time. Not like if it takes as much time as the other person is saving you, you're doing it wrong. You know, you might as well do it yourself. But it's not an inconsequential amount of time managing employees
it's just
or
like shifting your
freelancers.
duties.
Yeah. You're going from like, instead of just doing the work, you are planning and scheduling and reviewing and giving feedback and shaping guidelines and all of that.
When you're doing it via consultants, you can kind of like evaluate as you go and adjust as needed. But I think the reason that I don't feel ready to bring on someone full time is because like once you hire them, you can't just like evaluate and adjust on the fly. Like someone is relying on you. So yeah.
Yeah. Another.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. One last point. I think that also both of us like to commit to a decision, and if we brought someone on, we would want to like really bring them on. And I think that's really intimidating to us too, not only because it's a commitment ongoing, but like with the freelance editors, we hired we paid for 8 people to edit 8 different videos, and we've only used a few of them, and we ended up only continuing a relationship with 2. And the idea of going through that for like a full-time employee, and hopefully would get it right the first time, but
that's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure. All right, next question.
Okay, we have a would you rather, which is fitting because we just did a would you rather last week. Okay. So this is from Marcus. Okay, would you rather A, be blind and you have the ability to make any object perfectly without any tool? So that doesn't include the ability to restore or augment your own vision.
Which would have been my answer.
Yes. Or B, you're deaf, but you have the ability to play any instrument and any kind of music.
That's really tough because I think that if I were just choosing like which would you rather lose, your ability to see or your ability to hear, I think I'd like both stink, but I think I'd choose to lose the ability to hear.
I think I would too. I think that might have been one of our would you rathers. But if I'm thinking about what ability I would like to gain, I think it'd be cooler to have the ability to make any object perfectly with any tool. Oh, I think I said without any tool before. I don't know. With any tool. I'd rather have that than the ability to play any instrument. Yeah. Because we've always both been more about making things than like playing music.
Yeah.
So do we have an answer?
So it's like neither of these are ideal.
I would still probably have to pick the be deaf. Because like I don't want to be blind.
Yeah, I don't want to be blind. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the music is just like a bonus.
It's just a bonus. Yeah, it's true. Kirsten asks, what was your most challenging project and why? Most challenging project.
Well, and also, what's been the most gratifying? Oh, there's a lot of questions. Okay, we'll start with the first one. What's your most challenging project and why?
I think it's tough because every time we start a new type of thing, that's usually it's a really tough moment to get through. Like the very first time we did like the first big shift that we did actually was when we did the 3D modeling in for the dust shoe adapters. And like we'd been doing like tutorial project based videos where we're building something, and all of a sudden we're doing 3D modeling, and we're like, I forgot, or I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And then, well,
I think there's a difference between what's the most difficult project and what's the most difficult video.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Because when I think of project, I kind of think of it in terms of the video, because to me the video is the project.
Yeah.
But if we're answering like just the project.
Just the project?
Or maybe
would it be the laundry room?
The laundry room was pretty difficult.
Yeah. It was just a little bit time consuming. There's a lot of details to get right.
Yeah.
The Murphy bed was another more difficult one.
But it was like difficult because it was boring.
Because it was boring,
Because there was a lot of repeated tasks, which is kind of different.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something that was actually like challenging to get right. I would say actually, I have an answer.
Okay, what's that?
It helps though. It would have been even more difficult if we didn't have help with it, but the 3D printed knife.
The one that we forged with Alec?
Yeah, but like the 3D printing part of it, honestly, was a huge part too. Like the whole project.
Oh,
the Damascus knife.
Yeah.
So
You're
yeah,
right.
the 3D printed Damascus knife.
I
Of
almost
course,
forgot how many iterations we went through and how frustrating it was to like film like that like
that entire
test scene
project
again and again and again.
It was
and
so
again.
infuriating to film. Yeah, because we had to do so many variations, so many minor tweaks, so many tiny adjustments, and then like doing the blade itself. Yeah, we had a lot of help from like the best person to help us, Alex Steele. But even with help, it was still so much work with three of us like taking turns working on stuff.
Yeah. It was a lot of effort and love put into that.
Yeah, put into that knife.
And then a lot of people asking for one, and I'm like, no, never again. Never again.
Yeah, nope. Not making more.
Not making more. That's like a one-of-a-kind thing forever and ever.
Yeah.
No more ever made.
Yeah, I would say that's probably our most difficult project.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I agree with that.
And they were difficult videos, too, to like put all of that together in a concise way.
Okay, John from MakerBon asks, would love to hear about the time in New Zealand that you parachuted out of an airplane. I guess it was right after getting lost on a hiking trail where we almost died.
Yeah, okay, so if you haven't heard that New Zealand hiking story,
we'll link to that
we'll link to the
episode
podcast,
below,
where that is. We did a little story time. We also jumped out of an airplane when we were in New Zealand. This is a few years ago.
Well, we were like, we kind of had like a slight inclination, a slight like curiosity, like what would parachuting be like? And if we're
You mean
ever
skydiving?
Yes. What would skydiving be like? And if we're ever going to do it, this is like the 100% ideal place to do it. It was beautiful, like lots of good reputable places to try it at and stuff. So
yeah,
I don't know what like convinced us to do it.
Casual about it than I was.
I was more casual about it until we were up like 12,000 feet in the air.
Yeah, didn't we do 15?
15, yeah, something like that.
We did
went
the highest you could.
The highest you could. So we're like, oh, as long as we're doing it, we might as well get the most time in the air.
Yeah, which makes sense logically.
Yeah,
it's like logically, yeah. If you're gonna skydive at some point in your life and you happen to be in New Zealand, that's probably when you should do it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do it, you might as well jump from the highest point you can jump from.
And it was beautiful.
It was actually super awesome.
It was super awesome. Okay, so let's tell it in order.
Okay.
When we got to the place, that's when I really started getting nervous.
I was nervous the entire week leading up to it.
Man.
I think at some point we pulled the trigger to like prepay for it.
Yeah.
So that thinking that would make me like not be nervous because then I couldn't back out. It was like decided. And I think it did that for you.
Yeah, I think that
I
like,
was still nervous.
The funny thing is it didn't really come across.
Really?
Like until like we got closer to it. I didn't pick up on it like earlier in the trip.
I mean, I don't think until we got to, it was like once we were in Queenstown, that's when it started.
You're like, oh crap, we're jumping out of an airplane soon.
Yeah, it's like in a few days we're going to jump out of an airplane. Oh my God. And I think like, I'm trying to think of the most nerve-wracking part.
I think when
it was being in the airplane.
That when we were scooting towards the door.
Yeah. Okay,
like, so we're about to just fall out.
So for me, it was actually going up in the airplane.
Oh yeah, that
was more nerve-wracking than the scooting.
That was like, when like in horror movies or scary movies, how it starts
plays
out
the
like
riser.
Da-na, da-na. Imagine that for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it just like keeps on like the tension just kept on building.
Yeah, because like, before you actually get in the plane, they're kind of like telling you things, like they're teaching you how to like, okay, when we jump, you're gonna like form a banana shape, and you like do your banana.
What's a banana shape?
Oh, you did a terrible banana. You were just
banana.
arms and legs everywhere. You did not banana. But they like give you all these tips, and you're getting geared up, and you're like, okay, and you're talking a lot, and they're taking pictures, and lots happening, and then you get in the plane, and then it's just quiet. And you're just
we were
going
sitting
up
next to each other, and we chatted a tiny amount.
a little bit, but it was still like nerve-wracking. You're in this tiny plane, and the plane is like, it's like flying in a tin can.
It's like flying in a long refrigerator.
Yeah. It's like being in a long refrigerator.
With
it's
like
really
a sliding
low.
door.
Yeah, it's got a garage door at the
Yep.
end of it. It's really low. There's no seats. You're just like
Piled in like sardines.
sitting
like literally
on
like fish.
metal.
Yeah.
Everyone's like sitting in each other's laps, literally, because like, every person has another person strapped to their back, and like you're just going up very sharply in this tiny little plane, and you're like, what am I doing? Like, why didn't I just stay down there?
Funny little break. I'm a large person. And, a parachute can only take a certain amount of weight and everything. So they paired me with, like, the smallest guy, like the smallest parachuter, like, trainer. If I had him stood up fully, he was strapped to my back. I could have, like, picked him up, worn him like a little backpack.
It's true.
It's so funny. But, but, like, when we were scooting towards the door, that's when I was like, oh, crap. What have I done?
I think by the time we got to the point where we were scooting, because it was happening really fast, it wasn't like one person would jump and then we'd all wait 5 to 10 minutes and then another person would jump. It would be like one person would jump, 30 seconds would go by, and the next would jump. So you're constantly scooting down. And it was like, by that point, you're just in motion. And we were the last ones to jump.
I think the first one to be out might have been better.
Maybe. We were the last ones. We were in the very back.
Yeah.
So we were the last 2 people to jump. And so we had to watch everyone else jump.
Yeah.
But by the time it's you, it literally happens so fast. It's like you have no control over it.
Yeah.
There's no decision making. There's no backing out. It happens so fast.
It's kind of like you're walking along the street and you slip out an airplane.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Like, whoa, here I go.
Yeah, and it just, they just say like, okay, look up, and you look up, and then you're outside of a plane.
Yeah. What's really interesting is the fall was wonderful.
It was awesome.
The fall, like those, I don't even know how long, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute.
Yeah, I don't know how long we were actually falling. I think it was like 1.5 minutes, 2 minute 3. I don't know.
Yeah, but like that fall was so fun. It was so freeing. Fun. It was everything that I hoped for jumping out of a plane.
Yeah, and I had worried that, like when you
can't breathe.
No, I actually didn't worry about that. Although
I worried about that.
I had heard from some people that it was hard to breathe. What I worried about was like, when you're on like one of those rides that has a drop and you feel that drop in your stomach.
Yeah.
I was worried it was going to be that feeling for like several minutes straight.
Yeah, or when you're in an airplane and you get turbulence and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that at all. I felt like I was literally just like floating there, very comfortable.
It felt like you were floating with a really big fan blowing on you.
Yeah. Yeah,
but it didn't feel like you were going down at all.
No. It was very comfortable.
And then they pulled the parachutes.
And then that's when the trouble started for both of us.
Yep.
Because I think that maybe because they wanted to stay in a certain area or what, but they started circling for both of us. And neither of us can deal with circles.
We cannot.
At all. And I think that also we had such adrenaline. We
had so much nerves beforehand.
So much adrenaline, so much nerves. We were already in like a fragile state. And then they start spinning us in circles. And neither of us had the like presence of mind in that moment to say like, can you go back and forth in a line? Because circles are just not doing it for me.
I said like, I'm getting kind of dizzy.
Yeah, but
I didn't know like what else to suggest as an alternative. I was just like, I'm getting kind of dizzy.
Yeah, but like when we both landed, both of us by that point, it's like we were like nervous, woo, fun. Oh, I don't feel so good. And then by the time we landed, both of us were like seconds away from losing our stomach contents.
Yeah, seconds away.
Seconds away.
I think like who landed? Did I land first or did you land first?
I don't know. I think I landed first.
I think you landed first. That means I was the last one on the plane.
Yeah.
because I remember like I landed and they wanted to get a picture of us together.
Yeah.
And as soon as I landed, I was like, I'm going to throw up now.
Right now.
But then there's a person with a camera. And so I had to like hold it together long enough to take a picture. And then I was like, okay, I think I might be okay. But if there hadn't been a picture, I probably would have just
thrown up right
it.
there.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people have like thrown up as soon as they landed. Like, that was cool.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Oh man, I wonder like what if some people throw up in the air and just rains down little bits?
Oh, gross.
Oh, it's so bad.
Oh, it would like spray on you. Oh. That'd be bad.
That'd be so bad.
But it's like, I thought that the parachuting part would be super chill, super relaxing.
Yeah,
I was like looking forward to that part.
I was thinking that'd be like my most fun part too.
Yeah.
But I did not enjoy that.
Yeah. But I would like jump out of a plane if I could just skip the parachute part.
If we could have jumped out of a plane and gone straight.
Yeah, and just gone straight. That'd be great.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I would have loved that. Just like hanging in the air, like gliding down. Cool.
Here's a question. Would you do it again?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. It's like
It
one
was
and
really
done.
cool,
What is
but
one
yeah.
and done?
Yeah,
I've
one
done
and
it. It was it was an experience I'll always remember.
Yeah.
Generally fondly.
Yeah.
And I don't really have an inclination to do it again.
Same. There's some crazy, slightly less crazy, but still kind of on the crazy side stuff that I would like to do it again. A lot of it did happen in New Zealand.
Yeah, a lot of it did happen. Like one of the things we did in New Zealand is there's a sport or outdoor activity called canyoning where you like rappel and climb down cliffs and you go down like rivers and streams and you
Rapids and
go down rapids and everything. That was fun.
that was super fun. I would do that again.
I never would have guessed that I would have liked to do, but that was fun. Like exploring caves and caverns and stuff. That was really fun. But like jumping out of an airplane, I don't know.
Maybe one and done.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I don't think bungee jumping either.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't know. Part of me thinks like I might try bungee jumping only because I haven't.
Part of me thinks like, I don't know.
Yeah, but then I'm like, I already skydived. Like I've proven my chops. Is that the saying? You prove your chops? Is that it? Did I make that up?
I think that you're like mixing two together.
You chop your proves.
You have chops. I think it's like you have chops. You've proven your valor, proven your metal. Prove your metal, and you've earned your chops. I have proven that I am metal, and I have chops now.
Don't you see? I don't need to bungee jump.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well,
one or two more little quick questions?
Yeah. This is fun, though. It would be fun to do, like, more just general story times.
There's so many. Yeah, we should do more story times. If you guys want to hear more story times, let us know.
Yeah, we're going to do more story times in the future.
Especially vacation story times.
Yeah,
then we're going to run out because we don't go on vacations anymore.
All right, so one more from Tom Kelly. If you could create anything without worrying about timelines, sponsors, money, space, tools, etc., what would it be? And this has been something that I have wanted my entire life, basically. Like the dream workshop.
Yeah. For me, it's a little expanded because it's the dream workshop and the dream house to go along with it.
Yeah. That too. Yeah, but the dream workshop and the dream house, it would be so great to like craft something from the ground up just over a long period of time, just get everything right. Yeah. And like, this is the strangest thing, but like one of the things that really bothers me about this house, this is getting lost on the house side of things, but like the ducting is bad. It's just laying on the attic. Like there's like wires drooping everywhere, not properly managed. It's just like, I want like the house, the walls aren't right. There's so many little things wrong about this house. And it would be great to be involved in like the construction of the house from the get-go, have power outlets everywhere, have like server room, have Ethernet everywhere.
I would equally be down to have a fixer-upper, but one that like
has
we
the right
have
bones.
the ability, or either has the right bones already, or we have the ability to go in and fix all those things in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning. Like if we like lived in one house and we were fixing up a house nearby or something,
Yeah,
that's the only kind of main situation I could think of. But I think that, for the workshop, it'd be great if we had enough space. And we talk about like our ideal workshop a little bit in our episode with April, which we'll link below. But, having every tool, every material, every like capability where we just like, where the setup isn't ever a thing. There's no real barrier between wanting to make content or make a thing and the execution of that.
Yeah. If you want to make something, you just go start it.
Yeah. And like
cool.
everything's set up for filming too. documenting and filming. Like we have all the cameras, we have the backdrops, we have the lighting, we have the sound, we have everything set up so that there's no friction to pursue ideas.
Yeah.
Because right now there's a decent amount.
Oh, yeah, there is. Yeah, and I think like I guess to me the reason I bundle the house into that as well is because like
it is
a lot
package,
a lot of our work is in the shopable. A lot of our work is in the house too. Like our recording studio we're in right now. This is a guest bedroom. You know, and other things too. Like I think about, you know, I would really like to spend more time outside.
Yeah.
You know, like if we
had a nice fully covered outdoor space.
Yeah, fully covered outdoor space. That could be really cool. Or like, you know what, it'd be nice to have like, I don't know, because a lot of this comes down to like we don't leave the house a lot, and I don't necessarily want to, but like have like a cool movie room.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, just have like a really awesome house.
Yeah.
Because then we really don't have to leave.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Okay, one more question.
Last question.
There's a lot more, so we'll try to answer those in future Q&A segments. Because got a lot of good ones from Will Burke. What events, so like maker fairs, etc., do you think hold the most value for makers in different stages of their hobby/careers?
I think that, you know, we have been to a decent number of these now, and I think that when you're first starting out, I think that's the most valuable time to go. Yeah. I think because you get exposed to a lot of other, you know, types of making, a lot of other people. You can kind of like when you're first starting out, like the first discussions you have with your fellow people in real life, that's so exciting. That was such an exciting moment for us. We're like, our people, you understand us.
Maker Faire New York 2017 was our first like one since we started our own.
And I think that you know, so the other types of places and events that we go to are like we have Spring Make coming up, we have Workbench Con, and I think I kind of group those into the more industry specific type of event. Now for us, that industry specific event are content creators making stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, it might be different depending on whatever industry you're in, but there's like the more general and then there's the more industry specific. And I think go to one of each. I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but I think that
we can describe what they each offer so that you can decide what's best for you.
Yes.
Okay, so maker fairs are, and if you're gonna go, I would say go to Bay Area or New York. Yeah. Like go to one of the big ones.
I strongly agree.
It's not going to be. I mean, the little ones do have value, but if you want like the full experience, go to one of the big ones. Those are cool for the spectacle of it. It's almost like going. I mean, it is like a fair. Kind of, you know? So it's just a fun, cool experience. There's a lot of people there also there just for the fun, cool experience. You can probably do some networking, some meeting of companies, but it's not built for that. Like if that happens, that's awesome, and it probably will happen a little bit, but it's not built for it.
Yeah, and I think the way to take advantage of it, especially like, you know, a trip like that, is before you go, see who else in the community is going. Reach out, like, you know, do a post on Instagram or wherever your community is.
I think like buddy up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like we know a lot of people that like all reached out and found out they all wanted to go to the same event, rented houses together. You know, they traveled together. I think you get a lot more out of it.
Yeah,
like
a lot
forming
more.
A group.
Yeah.
And then like your group will meet up with other groups, but I think that gives you like a basis. I think the other events, so like Workbench Con and Spring Make, those are the ones that everyone was saying they're a little bit more specific. I think those are built for facilitating things like networking, like learning skills you need to do like making and content creation. They're smaller, they're more expensive, and they like because they're smaller, it's just that core group of people who are also trying to do exactly what you want to do. Yeah. Whereas like Maker Faire is a lot of people just there for the fun of it. They don't actually want to do it professionally necessarily.
Yeah, and at the like more professional focused events, you can really go up to anyone and start talking to them about the things that you have in common, because you're both drawn there for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
And everyone there is basically on the same page. So it's really easy to talk to anyone about something. Whereas at Maker Faire, some people might be there for their kids. Some people might be there for the robot races. Some people might be there for, a plethora of reasons,
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, like, if you want to go there for business reasons, I might suggest like the Workbench Con Spring Make type of things specifically for like networking. If you want to go more as like a
observer and like explorer.
Yeah, like
maybe?
I just want to like observe and absorb cool new things, and like see technologies I haven't seen before, and like maybe get some cool ideas that I can bring into my own, like the stuff that I make and be inspired. That might be more Maker Faire. Yeah. So that's more kind of like artsy and fun, and the other ones are a little bit more business. But they're all super fun. I mean, we enjoy all of them.
Yeah.
We're going to Spring Make in a couple days.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time this comes out, we will be home. But,
All right. So I think let's wrap things up with the thing of the week.
Yeah.
Do we have a noise for that yet?
No. Are we going to add another new noise? We can. We probably should. Let's do a noise.
The thing of the week. The noise was there.
Okay.
It wasn't my voice there.
Okay.
All right. So speaking of travel and events and stuff, my thing of the week is the
Good job. Try again.
The Manfrotto travel tripod, like the video tripod. Now, there's a lot of different Manfrotto tripods. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. You can get lost in all of the variations. Mm-hmm. This one is the Manfrotto Be Free Travel, like with the fluid drag system. And there's like
we will link to it.
We will link to it, but you want the one with like 3 legs, the lever locks, the fluid pan system. There's like a lot of reasons why this one in particular is our favorite, because like you can fit this in a backpack. You can fit this into carry-on. It's still
tiny. Sturdy.
It's really sturdy.
It is sturdy. And it has the fluid pan head.
It has the fluid pan head built in.
For photos, it's fine. You don't need it. But if you're doing video, you need a fluid pan head.
You need a fluid pan head. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. And it can flip all sorts of ways. It's really versatile and stuff.
It made collaborations so much easier.
Yeah.
Because before we couldn't. We had to do we couldn't fit it in a carry-on. Like
I think I stuffed it in once, like crooked, and I had to partially disassemble it. And
but I think it like
ruined my bag.
Busted your bag. Yeah.
It wasn't great. But having like a really good travel tripod is great. And it's so great. That's our secondary tripod. We use it.
Yeah, we use it when we're not traveling.
Very frequently.
Yeah.
And it's like not that much worse than our main one.
Yeah, it's like still a really good tripod. Stands alone as a main tripod if you needed it to be your main.
So I highly recommend it. I really like the system.
My thing of the week is IKEA fake plants.
We went on a little shopping spree, didn't we?
We did. We went to IKEA yesterday. And I feel like every time we go to IKEA, 90% of what we get is fake plants. But it's like, I mean, you guys know.
They're a really good deal there.
You guys know I can't keep stuff alive. Like I have like an aloe plant and one succulent, and that's it. My other aloe died, which you're supposed to not be able to kill aloe.
Confession time. You know those really pretty like yellow and green flower things we put in our
front door makeover? Front door? Yeah, they did.
Well, it's like we never watered them, and they were in the shade all day.
Yeah, they did.
They did. It's like we're like.
But you know what I realized?
We don't really.
But what I realized is nothing alive can be there.
Yeah, you're right, because it doesn't get any direct sun ever.
It doesn't ever get any direct sun. I mean, I'm sure there's something that works, but it probably isn't native to Houston if it can't handle sunlight. And I don't know.
Hey, the ones in our backyard are still alive.
Yeah, because they get sun and rain.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah, that's true. They're still alive. The ones from the welded grill cart video that we got for the patio. Those are still alive. But the ones at our front door, they did. And so what I decided is, like, instead of doing research and finding something that could survive with no sun and no rain, I'm just going to put fake plants outside. Like, is that so weird?
Is that weird? I don't know. I think that it might make them look more real over time.
Yeah, because they'll get dirty.
They'll get dirty. They'll weather.
I mean, they weren't that much more expensive than buying a real plant. Like, if I bought 2 more real plants, I probably would have spent about the same amount I spent on the fake plants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're not that expensive, and if they're gonna outlast the real ones, then there you go.
And it's just a little bit like less on our plates. You know, we just We just can't deal with anything else needing our time.
Yeah, like I feel weird because I don't think other people put fake plants outside. Like it seems very counterintuitive, but I'm gonna do it.
Huh? Well, maybe there'll be an update in the future on how this is holding up.
The downside is fake plants can melt. The other day we
had
it was when we had family over when my mom was in town.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm gonna light the candles on our dining table, but I also had fake IKEA plants on our dining table, and one of the candles, even though it was like a full 6 to 8 inches below the frond of my fake fern, melted the fake fern
onto the table.
Onto the table. So I guess there's that as a downside.
But I mean, like, a real plant would have died or caught on fire. I don't know which would have been worse.
Maybe this saved me.
And a real plant would have grown back, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I'm okay with this. The
outcome. Yeah.
Because IKEA fake plants are awesome, and like I would fill the entire house with it. We're on our way to filling the entire house with IKEA fake plants.
Yep. Almost every room has one now.
Yeah.
It's a little family.
Yeah, a little fake plant family.
All right. Well, thank you for being part of our podcast family today, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all of the reviews. We really do appreciate that. It really helps us stand out on the charts and everything.
We'll see you guys next time. Maybe we'll see some of y'all. Or I was going to say maybe we'll see some of you at spring make.
Maybe we just saw some of you guys.
Maybe we just saw some of you guys.
All right. Look forward to chatting next week.
Bye.
Bye.